Welcome in. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast pregame show. I'm Johnny Venerable. He's Bo Brack, the newest addition to the team. Brittan Golden in the house as we're here to preview the Cardinals finale in the preseason 2023, taking on Bo Brack, the Minnesota Vikings, and there's no shortage of storylines to discuss.
No, there's not. The Arizona Cardinals got a sixth quarterback on the roster this week, but today's not going to tell us much. This week, I guess, previous to the game, told us a lot about this team so far, but this is all about Brittan guys trying to make the roster, it feels like.
Yes. The last preseason game is normally big. I know they went down to 3, and a lot of teams are playing their starters, but in years past, that last preseason game is literally for the guys that are just trying to find a roster spot for anybody. It's not just the team that they're on right now. There's 31 other teams out there that they're interviewing for, so it's a big day for a lot of guys.
We welcome everybody in the chat. Hit that like button. Subscribe to PHNX Sports here on YouTube. What's up, Robert, Mike A., Chris, Fishbowl, Flash, everybody primed and ready to go for what looks like is going to be a Clayton Tune start, I would imagine, Bo, for much of the first half. And let's start here in Preflight with the quarterback discussion. It was a very, let's call it, tumultuous week for Colt McCoy in Minnesota. Now he is expected to sit today.
Yeah.
Joshua Dobbs, the newest member of this franchise, I don't even think he's in Minnesota. I think he's going to go directly from Cleveland to Arizona. What do you make of what we could see today and how that could impact QB1 ahead of week 1?
I mean, Colt McCoy's status remains the status quo where they know what he can do, right? And they feel like he doesn't have anything to gain by playing at least in today's matchup. But Clayton Tune, as JG said at the end of the last preseason game, he's playing a lot because he needs the reps. He's a 5th-round rookie out of Houston. He wasn't in a Power 5 conference. And, he's working on things from footwork to technique to get himself mechanically up to speed if his number is called at any point this season. So they're going to try to get him as many reps as possible. It's really interesting, Brittan, when you look at who's expected to play and not expected to play. Some rookies getting some veteran treatment. I mean, we expected Paris Johnson Jr. because he's been entrenched at that right tackle spot, but a 6th-round cornerback in Keitrell Clark is a healthy scratch. That's good news for the first-year player.
Yeah, I mean, it's great news for them. I mean, one, it lets you know that, right, they have a lot of confidence in you already. They think that you're ready to play at this game. And, at any time that you don't have to play in that last preseason game, it's a little confidence builder.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about a confidence builder for our guy. Here he is, Brittan Golden. I want to bring up the player card, which we're going to debut for today, of course, was a member of, let's just call him the golden years here in Arizona with Bruce Arians and company. 2015 NFC West title. Of course, Brittan made it to the NFC title game, played with Carson Palmer, Larry Fitzgerald, of course, walked on to the NFL, was undrafted, but you're boys with Bruce Arians, are you not?
Yeah, he's a great dude, man. I enjoyed my entire time playing underneath him and getting to know him on and off the field. He's been a great person in my life. They had that whole stigma the whole time, the cool uncle. He really is that cool uncle, man. He's going to get after you in between the lines, but off the field, man, he's going to love you just like anybody else.
I may be reaching, Bo Brack, but I thought about it this week, especially with the removal of Isaiah Simmons from the team. It was a removal. I mean, they traded him away for what I think is kind of a throwaway 7th rounder. And I think about what Jonathan Gannon was able to do with players like Reed Blankenship, undrafted guys. And that was very much like the Bruce Arians mindset, where it's like, yeah, sure, they had their high picks. They had their premier free agents that they go out and sign to. But it was the Brittan Goldens of the world that got this team elevated to consistent perennial status in the NFL. And I feel like the Cardinals are trying to get back to that, where it's more about the team and the bird on the helmet than just individuals.
Absolutely. It's a unified front. It's, removing any kind of the ego, and it's a mindset of team first. I love the mantra from BA. It was like, I'm going to coach you hard, I'm going to hug you harder, right? Isn't that it? And when we talk you talk to people like Brittan who know the coach so well for information on who the man is, and we talked to Andrew Zendaya, who played a lot of years at the NFL at the safety position under Jonathan Gannon. This was before he was hired.
Yeah.
Zendaya said at the Radio Row that this is a guy that he thinks is going to have a unique ability to connect with the players, like with today's players, because there is kind of a culture shift as far as, yesterday's NFL stars and today's NFL stars, as is always changing. And you got a guy kind of right there in the middle as far as JG just turned 40, and he has a unique ability to kind of connect with these guys and to be able to coach them, but also kind of understand, their day-to-day life.
How critical is it, Brittan, for some of these guys attempting to make the final 53? And we know that they had the joint practices this week against the Vikings, and a lot was said and unsaid during those practices. But now they get a showcase. For some guys, it's an entire half. Like, what's going through their mind today?
I think, honestly, it's just trying to treat it like it's a regular season game. And you got to treat it like you've made it. You've got to go out there, play your game, control what you can. Don't try to do too much, because then you'll get over yourself. But I think for most of these guys that are going to get a lot of action today, I think for them it's just, let me just go out there and showcase everything I can so I can have an opportunity to make a roster.
Yep. Maybe not the Cardinals, but a different roster in the NFL.
Possibly not be this one. That's when you have good coaches in the room that can explain stuff. It's like, look, this is your job interview. There's 32 teams in this league. You're on one right now, so there's 31 other guys that are out there just staring and trying to find who can help them win. So it's a giant interview.
Absolutely. How about this? We got some action in the chat, super chat style. AZ Fan 1998, thank you so much. $5. Can't wait for them whites. Cardinals going with the white on white for the first time today. How do I watch the dang game in Tucson? This is crazy. Appreciate you guys. Keep up the great work. Isn't it on local cable, Brock?
Yeah, I don't know if something like 12 News, KPNX, if it extends down to Tucson. I have no idea. I'm not a cable provider. I wish I had more insight for our boy out there. Maybe check into the other options as far as cutting the cord, like the NFL Plus, NFL Premium. Mr. J, do we know if BJ is going to play today? Certainly looked like he was warming up to do so via some reporters there on the scene in Minneapolis. Jose Romero of AZ Central and Darren Urban, of course, of azcardinals.com. It looks like BJ Ojulari is going to see his first game action. This is this is from Urban on Twitter, basically saying who's in, who's out, giving us kind of a good look at it. Paris Johnson Jr., Zaven Collins, they are all out. Healthy scratches, as is Keitrell Clark. Doesn't look like we're going to get any Colt McCoy, so it is going to be Tune and Blau. They're the only quarterbacks really dressed for today. Will Hernandez out. Elijah Wilkinson has won that left guard job. Kind of surprising, right?
Yeah.
An unknown that just emerged and never relinquished that left guard spot. We've got, no Marquise Brown, so no Hollywood. Michael Wilson getting the veteran treatment. Not surprised there. And then that Keitrell Clark thing. So really, really fascinating to see. Like, I think the pass rush, there's a lot of jobs to be won. Not a whole lot of spots, but without Zaven, we'll see, what Ojulari can do. We'll see if Cam Thomas is out there. But then you got those guys on the back end like Luketa, who lit it up in practice this week, Jesse Luketa out of Penn State, or a guy like Victor Dumakeji, who's going into his third year. Like Brittan said, they might not win a job on the Cardinals, but they could potentially, especially Luketa. If he doesn't make the squad, I think somebody's going to scoop him up.
Just got a programming note from our VP of content here, Mr. Gregory Espo. The Cardinals pre- and post-game broadcast will be shown, and the game broadcast will be shown on KTTU and KMSB in Tucson, KOAT in Albuquerque, KFOX in El Paso. So there's some programming notes for you there, but here's another programming note. This is your definitive
Get it all here.
Pre-game and post-game. We're going to go live maybe a little early. We're still deciding, maybe mid-fourth quarter, if that strikes your fancy. Here's what strikes mine. The Birdgang Blitz. The major storylines we're watching for in the game today. Let's start, Brock, with that pass rush, as you just mentioned, SOS pass rush without the likes of Zaven Collins today. Who can step up? Because that's one of the more interesting groups, I think, within the landscape of this roster. You've got about 6-7 guys fighting for, 4 or 5 spots?
Yeah, you do. As intrigued as I am to see BJ Ojulari, his first snaps on the field, it's going to be who's going to kind of fill out the depth on this roster. And it's, as much as it isn't top heavy, they're going to have to rely on a steady rotation. And who are guys that are going to be able to fit the mold that they're looking for, that violence, that versatility, the ability to rush the passes, to be able to kind of fit some gaps, but also drop back in coverage, all the things that they're asked from JG and Nick Rawlis. They're going to have to be able to do it all. They're going to have to be the most versatile guys on the team, because when their number's called, they're going to have to be able to just go in there and play the position close to the standards that are in place by Rawlis and JG.
Yeah, moving on from that pass rush down to the secondary, Brittan. It's the secondary after Simmons. Isaiah Simmons no longer with this club following the trade on Thursday. I mean, what's going through the mind of the rest of those defensive backs and corners and safeties for the Cardinals now that number 9 is gone?
If they're smart, this is my chance.
Yeah.
This is my moment. You know, we've lost a guy that they wanted to be at the top. They tried to groom and it just didn't work out. This is my opportunity to go in and show them that I deserve this spot. So I think, like we talked about earlier, I just think all these guys I'm sure they're ready. I'm sure they're excited and pumped, but this is your moment.
It's funny, you know, Isaiah Simmons playing into the second quarter of last week's game. Now he's off the roster. No Jalen Thompson, no Budda Baker today.
Yeah.
That 3rd and 4th safety spot very much up for grabs for this team. If nobody solidifies themselves today, Bo Brock, it does feel like that's a position to watch for. Waiver claims, free agent signings for this club, because I do think they're going to churn the bottom of this roster, particularly in the secondary, with some depth.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. They signed Sean Chandler a couple weeks ago, and he's suspended for PED violation for the first 2 games of the season, so he's not available. So you've got JT, you've got Budda, and then you don't have much behind that. You know, you haven't liked what you've seen really beyond the 2 starters there, so it's going to be interesting to see who emerges. No Zach Ertz, of course, no Trey McBride, no Yelda Froholt. So when you're going to see a heavy dose of Clayton Tune in the first half, he's going to be behind the 2s on that offensive line. That's a little. It's tough to get a job when you're trying to make plays and you're running for your life. Hopefully that second unit can step up. The wide receiver position, though, Brittan, when we look at it, you know, it seems like Greg Dortch is going to be out there and play. I feel like he's firmly on this roster. But then we look at guys like Andre Baccellia, who's been in this organization for a while. We'll see if he can earn a spot. You got some bigger guys like a Daniel Arias, who's out of Colorado. And then you got guys like Davian Davis and Caden Davis. Like, what can guys do in that spot with the little time that they have left on this roster to make a roster?
Honestly, it's just making the plays that come to you.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, Greg Dortch, if he plays today, I don't expect to see a lot from him. I think he's, between the practices and even last season and the preseason games he's played so far, I just don't see him not being on this roster. But I think ultimately it's just making the play when it comes your way. And it's with the ball and without the ball, right? They're watching. If you're blocking for that running back, they're watching every single thing. So running down on special teams, like, I think a lot of guys don't understand when you're fighting for this backup receiver position, backup defensive back position, whatever position it is, you know, special teams is going to come in crucial. It's basically the only way I survived for 7-8 years in this league was just learning how to play special teams. So it's going to be a big factor in who makes the bottom 6-7 spots of this roster.
Well, and you think about Brittan, they retain their special teams coach from the prior regime. He's made it through what, 2 to 3 different coaching staffs.
Yeah, he was with Cliff, and now he's with JG.
And so, okay, is a guy like Zeke Turner safe because he's been a stalwart? I don't think that that's assured now. I think this team, and we saw it with their free agent signings, is going to prioritize special teams. That they're going to play a style of football that I think is very unlike anything they've played probably in the last 10 plus years. Emphasis on running the ball, field position. I think their kicker-punter combination has a chance to be really good, as non-sexy as that may be. And I think their special teams coverage is going to be solid. I think they had nice punt coverage last week. So again, it's one of those things where today may not feel important from a special team standpoint, but it really is. They're going to lock up guys that they feel like are going to make a difference on Sundays in coverage as gunners, blocking kicks and punts. To me, the special teams unit of the Arizona Cardinals, as much as people may laugh at this, Bo, could be the unsung hero for this team. If you talk about, and we talked about it off air, if there are reasons for this team to do better than people think, I think it's the offensive line being a plus unit, it's their run game, and it's special teams, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's what got Gardeck in the door, continues to be with this organization. And they said, hey, this is a guy that we still feel can maybe rush the passer and can get back to his former form where he had 7.5 sacks in 2020?
Yeah.
Before the knee injury. And then has been working his way back. And then the same thing goes for guys like Chris Boyd. I think the opportunity now with Simmons gone, Chris Boyd, he's a guy that starred on teams for Minnesota, can now maybe find himself in the secondary. Can he play maybe that nickel or that slot corner? Well, he's probably not going to be an outside guy, but can he get on the field and earn a spot? Yeah. And he's doing that he's getting that opportunity by shining on teams, Brittan. I mean, that's how you made your way into the NFL, right?
And that's honestly, if you're not a top guy, you're not a starter, and you don't play special teams, Good luck.
Good luck to you.
Because special teams is arguably one of the most important parts of this game. You have a bad special teams unit, field position is the name of this game. All right, if you can't cover a kick and they're starting on their side of the 50 every time, they only got to go 45, 50 yards to score.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a good special teams unit is the key to having a solid season.
I think if you're kind of on the fence about teams and you kind of just gloss over it and you don't think it's a big thing, just listen to any Bill Belichick press conference leading up to a game. He emphasizes teams. He emphasizes the 3 phases of football, and it's offense, it's defense, and special teams.
Well, how many games has this franchise lost?
Well, think about in 2021,
memory?
the hot start that they had.
Yeah,
they had big plays on teams that put the offense in a solid position to cash in, and they did. And it's just it's an under like. I don't want to say like they've got like a really solid special teams with Boyd and Gardeck and Zeke Turner but they do, and it's one of the few units on this team that you say, okay, this is where they can make plays, or at least be solid enough to where they're not putting themselves in compromising positions, because that's another part of it.
It'd be nice to see them set up Clayton Tune for success today on special teams, give the 5th rounder out of Houston some short fields. It's our final Birdgang Blitz topic today. Brack, I think QB1 is out of the realm of possibility now with Joshua Dobbs in the mix. I think the trade for Joshua Dobbs has solidified Clayton Tune as a backup on this team, but a backup I think that can be active on game days, a backup that I think can be a part of this roster for years to come. But it's just, I think today, we've mentioned it all week on this program, Clayton Tune I think is going to play his best football today, because the pressure of worrying about QB1, because he took 1 snaps with the starters this week in Minnesota. Free and easy, Gregory Dortch and company, let him connect. I think definitively we get the best preseason performance from Clayton Tune today.
Got to see it. I mean, I do agree with you that he's probably in a more comfortable spot, and like, hey, I've got to be ahead of the curve and I have to be ready to go come the regular season, and that's not the case any longer. He can just relax and just work on his game and become more organic as far as what they're trying to do with his footwork and try to get him into this more pro-style offense than kind of the air raid that he came from Houston. So, yeah, if he can go back there and he can comfortably just kind of rip it, let's see. Let's see what the kid's got. If we can see that completion percentage kind of rise, we're probably not going to see much as far as Minnesota and their ones. So these are just kind of a situation conducive to success for a guy like Clayton Tune. Sure, like let's hear people start to, the Tune squad start rambling his name because the performance speaks for itself.
What have you seen, Brittan, from Clayton Tune in just these 2 preseason starts, and what are you looking for today?
I think he's actually played really solid. Yes, he's had some throws that weren't there. He might have made a couple decisions that weren't the best, but that's stuff that you have to know is going to come. First action in a pro-style offense. But honestly, I think he's played well, and he's done stuff. I think this would be a good chance for him to just kind of let his hair down, for instance, if that's how you want to say it, and just the game plan won't be complicated. I think it'll be a good way for him to just go out there and play free.
Yeah, absolutely. You can play free right now with our friends at BetMGM with some bonus bets. Hello, tap that app time. And while there is not a robust amount of props in relation to this game, certainly player props, that comes in about 2 weeks' time. We're going to get to that then. I do think there are some tasty nuggets, gentlemen, to make you and use some money using the BetMGM app. And here they are, our Tap That app, kegs and eggs today with your boy, Johnny Venerable. I like the Cardinals. Cardinals, surprise, they're a favorite? What the hell is this, Magic Land? They haven't been a favorite the entire preseason. They're not favored in any games this regular season. But I think the folks in Vegas saw, you know what? Colt McCoy's not playing. It's Clayton Tune for the first half. We're going to make the Cardinals the favorite over Nick Mullins and company. So I like the Cardinals -1.5. That's better odds than, I think they're, -160 money line. Go ahead and swallow 1.5. You won't be sorry that you did. I have also liked the over in this game. Minnesota's defense, historically not very good. They got lit up last weekend against Tennessee. They're playing backups upon backups. I think both teams give up some points today, and I think both teams go over 20 per. I think the Cardinals actually could have a chance to have a pretty robust day through the air with Blau and Clayton Tune. Bo, what do you think of my kegs and eggs bets today?
I like it, man. I mean, 1.5, it's a preseason game. If it's that close, it really just seems like it's a coin flip. I'll take those odds. I mean, those are solid odds anywhere.
You like the over-under.
I do like the over-under.
Okay.
I'll take the over, though.
Thank you.
I think the ball's going to fly a little bit in the air today.
Yeah. And you very rarely get like a guy like Blau who has NFL starting experience playing in the back half of these games too. So, he could take advantage of third and fourth and fifth stringers. Feel sick to my stomach, really breaking that down.
Listen, David Blau is a respectable preseason quarterback. We saw what he did, stealing a win against Sean Payton and company. We love him for that. He started games for this franchise. Is that a good decision? That remains to be seen, but he's capable. The Cardinals quarterbacks today are capable. No Jeff Driscoll, who feels like he's just unfortunately for him, about 72 hours away from not being on this team anymore. Blau's going to play fast and loose, and I think he's got a lot to play for today, as does Clayton Tune. So we've got some questions in the chat I want to get to. Donnie, we're okay to crack open a beer this early for the game? Of course, as long as it's a Four Peaks, gentlemen. A Four Peaks beer. We'll be dabbling during game time. Dan in the chat, Dumakaji out. Did anyone hear anything about an injury? Bo Brock, Victor Dumakaji not playing today.
I haven't seen anything on that. Maybe he got nicked up, as JG likes to say, during the practices and joint practices in Minnesota. That's a big loss for a guy that's vying for a spot. He doesn't seem like he's part of this healthy scratches with Ertz and Paris Johnson and Will Hernandez and DJ Humphries and Elijah Wilkinson, Marquise Hollywood Brown. Victor Dumakaji, I think, absolutely has a lot to play for, because when you think about it, like if these guys are all healthy, they're already 5 deep at the pass rush position, right? It's Zaven, it's Gardeck, it's Cam Thomas, it's BJ Ujulari, and it's Majay Sanders.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, we'll see what those, especially with Majay, what his status is come Tuesday. Do they decide to maybe go something with his hand issue? But that's why it's so important for a guy like Vic Dumakaji to get out there and continue to perform.
Michael in the chat, laugh out loud. 3 words you never hear: respectable preseason.
There you go. I feel like
on this program you do, and that brings us into in the cards, final predictions, scores, what have you, for the Cardinals preseason finale against the Minnesota Vikings. They have a chance to go to 2-1 with a winning record, albeit in the preseason for Jonathan Gannon and company. So, Brittan, any final thoughts, predictions as it relates to today's matchup on and off the field for the Cardinals? They've had a hella busy week, right? This feels like the last day, the crescendo of training camp preseason, and then we pivot. We pivot into week 1.
Yeah, like we said earlier, I think everybody goes out there and just treats this like the biggest job interview of their life. Go out there, have some fun, play loose. I mean, don't at this point, this is your last chance to show it. So I think everybody has a good day today. I think it ends 27-20.
Nice.
I think Cardinals will win it.
I like that. And I think they win the uniform matchup today. Dana's countdown, national media dogs, the unis they're wearing.
What?
I think we all are united on how clean these all-white row uniforms look. We're going to see them in action in a few minutes, but that's part of it. But, I think, you really have to be appreciative of the guys that made it to this point in camp. Like they fit and have done everything that have been asked of them throughout this process from the new coaching staff. And I think that's been a lot. Like these are not, get in, get out, short Cliff Kingsbury days. These are long days where you're just thinking about football all day long and you're putting your body out there on the line. And, you hope a bunch of these guys go out there and win the jobs that they're trying to win. And they put their best tape out there potentially to continue playing the game that they love. So this is going to be a fun one to wrap up first inaugural JG preseason. And then we'll get on to the bigger storylines of what this roster looks like in the post game until the deadline on Tuesday.
I think guys, complimentary players like Keontae Ingram have a lot to play for. And listen, the week that Greg Dortch had, I know he's our boy, he's part of the show in Minnesota. He needs to push for playing time. He is pushing for playing time with the ones. And I think he could solidify himself as the best offensive player on either side for both teams to begin this game. I'm also anxious to see, gentlemen, you think about the bottom of this roster, it's going to be churned. And the players that play today, if they're cut for whatever reason, they could be brought back. So your audition lasts well beyond just today and into next week. And I want to see this franchise continue, Bo and Brittan, to develop young players. They have a chance to show out today. And it's a culture game. Whether or not people want to believe that, this is an expectation that you go out and you compete every single, football Saturday or Sunday. We're going to compete every Sunday for you on this show, the post-game show, not necessarily immediately following the game. So keep a lookout. We will let you know on Twitter, on YouTube. Ring that bell. We may go a couple minutes early today while the fourth quarter is still going on to get you the very latest as it relates to the Arizona Cardinals post-game show. He's Bo Brock. He's Brittan Golden. I'm Johnny Venerable. Hit that like button, subscribe, and we will see you on the post-game show here on PHNX Cardinals.